Hello Cancer friends, I'm Annie Botticelli and welcome to my video, June 2020 Astrology, Cancer Must Knows. We've got a solar eclipse in your sign, the last one of this series of Cancer eclipses. We've got Mercury retrograde in your sign. We have Venus still retrograde, ruler of love, beauty, and money, definitely affecting those areas of life. We have another eclipse in a sign that is not very coherent with your connection. And we've got this intense Jupiter-Pluto connection. It's called a conjunction when they come together in the sky. And this is the second of 3 passes that are going to occur in this full cycle. And this combination is causing a lot of the mischief in the world with the coronavirus and the breakdown of the system. So we're going to have another pass of this, and we're going to talk about how this may affect Cancer specifically. So we've got an action-filled month. This month is very much full of the energy of stitches being pulled out in a scarf that has gone awry. If you're learning to crochet or knit, you're making a scarf, which is a simple thing to start with. A lot of times, if a beginner will miss stitches, or someone not paying attention will miss stitches and find that the side of their scarf is going like this. And this is very much like our lives. We wake up one day and we realize our scarf is super uneven, right? And what happens then is that we either have to voluntarily stitch out back to where we made the mistake, or the universe unstitches it for us. So this is a month where there's going to be a lot of unstitching things that were stitched, ungluing things that were cemented, things being called into question, things from the past coming back in an amazing way, and a lot of uncertainty and heavy emotion. I say heavy, but it could be really good too. So basically high emotion for better and worse. It's a very action-filled month. Even though we've had a very action-filled year astrologically, this is definitely one of the biggest months of the whole year as far as active transits that could be potentially life-changing. And I know Cancers have been along this major transition for about 2 years, since the middle of 2018, when the Cancer eclipse cycle of eclipses happened or started. All of this has been affecting your signs in really big ways, bringing very big beginnings and endings in your relationships, very big things having to do with work and your place out in the world, questions there, opportunities there, changes there, and lots of things having to do with trying to attune to your inner world while keeping up with everything in your outer world. So we're going to go through here piece by piece. I've got this little grid. So we've got an overview here of the month, and we will also look at the charts. The first thing to note are these dates here. June 2nd is when the Mercury shadow period starts. Mercury goes retrograde, or either June 17th or 18th, depending on your time zone, stays retrograde until July 12th. The post-transit shadow period lasts until July 26th. So essentially June and July are completely covered in this Mercury retrograde energy. So this has to do with things coming back from the past. This has to do with communication topics coming back. This has to do with expression, artistic expression, and hobbies and things like that, ways that you express yourself. And this also can have to do a lot with things with home and family. The topics of home and family are always big for Cancers because that's the area that Cancer rules. But now when the sky is so active with these energies, and then of course the sun is going to move into Cancer, and we have birthdays to add to all of this. So that's very big. So I'll talk about those of you who will be most affected by this Mercury retrograde transit, depending on your sign placement. And let's see, so we'll look at the charts for that. Then, one thing I wanted to mention about the retrogrades. There's a period of time before the retrograde and after the retrograde that are called shadow periods. And I liken them to like water being put on a stove. Once the heat comes on, the shadow period starts, okay? So that's June 2nd. So you can see the whole month is covered in this, retrograde energies. And then the boiling point is the point at which the retrograde starts. And then when you turn the heat off is like, it takes a little while to cool down. That's the after period. So the things that are in effect for the retrograde are effect in the shadow periods. And if you want to know more about how to navigate through Mercury retrograde, search for Annie Botticelli Mercury retrograde, and you'll find my resources on that topic. Venus, the ruler of love, beauty, money, fashion, design, may have been bringing a lot of mischief, hopefully some wonderful things too, back in those departments for you, and that continues. Venus will go direct June 24th to 25th, depending on your time zone, and that shadow period will also last until the end of July, around July 29th, at which point the Mars pre-transit shadow period will begin. So if you've been watching my work a while, this is what I've been talking to you about with this year full of retrogrades, and you can see how the slowdowns and moving backwards has been manifesting in this pretty extreme experience we've been going through. Okay, so we've got an eclipse on June 5th. It's a lunar eclipse at 15 degrees of Sagittarius. This is the first of the Sagittarius Gemini eclipse cycles. And these are not in a great angle for Cancer placements. So what that means, it doesn't mean you can't have wonderful things come from it. And I know a lot of you are still a little bit shell-shocked from what's happened with the other eclipses in your sign and opposing your sign. But this is teaching you how to do things in a new way, basically. You know, the Cancer Capricorn cycle that's ending here in June and July of this year was, you know, eclipsing out things that were no longer serving you, or that just was their time to go, and bringing in new things. And now what this next eclipse cycle that runs through the rest of 2020 and through 2021 is calling out for you to do is to do things in a different way, in some ways that are not necessarily natural for you, okay? And this might have to do with you speaking your truth. This might have to do with you putting yourself out in front of people. This might have to do with you sharing your gifts in ways that stretch you a little bit further beyond what you're comfortable with, and possibly taking you further from home, or like the home sanctity, meaning, you know, gosh, there's so many ways this can look. And at the time of my recording this, of course, travel isn't happening, but we are going to be able to travel again. The world's not going to be closed forever. And in this eclipse cycle, you might be called, you know, to do local or distance traveling, or to just put yourself out to the world through a virtual arena. And that's not always very comfortable for people with strong Cancer placements. So, you know, don't think that this eclipse cycle has to be bad for you. It just is going to take you out of your comfort zone, and that's going to stretch you. It's going to enliven you. It's going to open you up to new experiences, and that can definitely be a really good thing. Okay, so if you want to know where that eclipse is going to hit for you, watch my May report, because I'll tell you exactly for the early, middle, and late where that eclipse hits. But definitely do know that those of you in the middle degree section, so basically like the July 1st through 10th, you might have the strongest discomfort from that eclipse on June 5th, because the way that that will be aspecting for you is, you know, a little more challenging. Okay, now we're going to look at the charts for this June 21st new moon solar eclipse, and I'll show you exactly where that's going to be for each of you. And do know for that one, those of you in the early sectors, especially like the first 5 to 7 days, the closer to the first day of the sign, the more intense, you're going to have the most dramatic effects from that eclipse, for better or worse. Then this big June 30th Jupiter-Pluto conjunction. This Jupiter-Pluto conjunction is part of why we have what's going on in the world, because Pluto has been in Capricorn. Everyone remembers when Pluto got in Capricorn, even if they don't realize it, because when the markets fell, when the real estate market and all the lending markets collapsed in 2008, that was Pluto's, hello, I'm in Capricorn. And then at that time, Jupiter also connected with Pluto in Capricorn. And now 12 years later, Jupiter and Pluto have connected in Capricorn again. That happened in April. So the weeks leading up, you know, and months leading up to the beginning of April were part of this Jupiter-Pluto conjunction. And we see what happened. All of the systems and structures of the world got tested. And so we've got another bump here, June 30th. And then we have the last one, November 12th. So if you want more information on that, definitely search for Annie Botticelli coronavirus, and I'll explain how astrology explains what's going on. I hear people say the coronavirus caused the markets to crash. That is not true. The coronavirus is a messenger, part of the experience of the messages of the stars from the human experience. We're slated to experience something as humans, as part of our evolution, as the stars click together in these configurations. And the coronavirus is part of that. And what is being tested is the systems. And systems that are sustainable, they will be strong and get stronger. Systems that are not sustainable, they will be blown away as they are, and they will be rebuilt. So that's what's going on here. But do know that it's not just negative things that are happening here. Many people will see amazing expansion and growth and even prosperity from what's happening here. So if you can just keep asking yourself the question, is what I'm doing sustainable? Are my relationships sustainable? Is the way I communicate sustainable? Is my health sustainable? Are my activities and my actions sustainable? Is my job and how much I'm working and how I'm working sustainable? Is my business sustainable? All of those, and that's sustainable on every level, not just environmental, meaning can you keep it up? Is it going to, cause problems on the trajectory that it's at? So if you can answer those questions, yes, then that's what Jupiter and Pluto really wants from you. And that's what this year is all about, is getting everything to where it's sustainable. Okay, so we're going to look at the charts. And I am going to talk about things that will be true for all of you, but I will be differentiating out as well. So I want you to know where you are. Early Cancers are basically the June born, or 0 to 9 degrees. Middle degree Cancers are basically July 1st through 10th, or 10 to 19 degrees. And then the late degree Cancers are those of you around July 11th through the rest of the sign, or 20 to 29 degrees. Okay, so the first thing I want to talk about is, let's use the early chart here. I'm using the early chart, but what I'm talking about now is true for all of you, unless I differentiate otherwise. When the sun in the sky gets back to the same point that it was at when you were born, that's called a solar return. That's your birthday. That crosses over at the point when the sun is at this ascendant point, which is where we place the sun for the solar chart. And you get 10 wishes. You write them down, say them out loud, and feel them as if they have already come true. If you want more assistance on how to best use and maximize your wishing time, search for Annie Botticelli, Making Wishes Come True, and I have a whole video about using astrological power periods for manifestation. But the sun in the sky in our lives represents desire. So all of these placements, they have their areas of rulership in our experience, and the sun represents desire. So when the energy of desire comes back from the sky to where it is when we're born, it opens up a portal for desires. That's where birthday wishes come from. So if you are a person who's watching for Cancer moon or Cancer rising, you still get a nice rebirth boost at this time, because when the sun crosses over your moon or the sun crosses over your ascendant, it still gives this energy of rebirth and, kind of figuring out the things that you want. Now, the thing to know is that before you have this magical time of your birthday, you have this crazy time of a full 12th house. And you can see that that's true for early, that's true for middle, and that's true for late. And the difference with the late degree placements is, see, the sun is back here instead of over here. That means it takes longer to get there. That means those of you who are later into July for your birthdays or your later degree placements, it's going to take the sun longer to get to the 12th house. So by the time some of you are already done with that and the sun is here in the rebirth section, then the ones in the later degree, you're just having the sun move into that place. Okay, so it's staggered. And it's the same thing for the middle degree, but it just takes a shorter amount of time to get to y'all, because you can kind of see here. See how the sun is here in the early, and then the sun is back here in the middle, and then the sun is all the way back here in the late degree. All right. So this 12th house has to do with your unconscious mind. It's your fears. It's your hidden things that you can do that you don't even know that you can do. It's your ancestral baggage. It's the cosmic consciousness. It's, the Akashic records. It's the your subconscious history of everything that ever happened. It's your bloodline remembrances. All of this stuff is here, for better and worse. I always liken it to an attic. You can find something in your family that is worth millions of dollars in your attic, or you can find proof that you have a different family than you thought you did in your attic, and all of this is the 12th house, the fears, the hidden things, the worries, the anxieties, all of that happens in this house. So the work before the birthday is to confront your fears, to quell your anxieties, to do the inner work so that you can walk through the things that you don't want, so that you know what it is you do want, so that you can use the energy for wishing for what you do want, okay? I always call this the Harry Potter house too, when he realizes that these things outside of him are really inside of him. And when he manages that, then everything around him turns out okay. So I love EFT, the emotional freedom technique for anxiety. Cancers are very prone to anxiety. And so this is a free thing. You can find so many free resources if you just search for EFT for anxiety or whatever else. It uses the Chinese meridian system, but it goes beyond that as well, where it basically stops the fight or flight. Okay, and acupuncture does the same thing. So if you are in fight, flight, or freeze, and you're anxious and you don't know what to do, and you're procrastinating, and you're paralyzed with emotion, as energies with Cancer can often describe their experience, and then enter this 12th house where you get super anxious. People sometimes think they get anxious before their birthdays because they're turning older and they're reckoning the last year and all of that. And some of that is true. But what's more true is that in the weeks before your birthday, this energy is being accentuated. The sun is there with this bright spotlight showing you everything that is an issue. And, if you try to just party it away, as some people do, you're not making productive use of it, and you can be making more of a mess than you need to, because if you just confront and deal with and heal the issues, then you can have your more clear rebirth. Okay, so in general, this is making you think more. Okay, when the planets are in Gemini like this, all of these planets are in Gemini, it's making you think more. And you have to do things to be able to clear your mind, and EFT can help. All right, so the next thing I wanted to talk about is the Mercury retrograde. Mercury retrograde is going to affect everyone in the zodiac. It's going to affect everyone in the Cancer sign, but those of you who are between 4 and 15 degrees, that's where it moves back and forth around. So basically around 4 degrees into the sign until around July 5th or so. So basically June born through around July 5th, you're going to be most impacted because Mercury is going to rump and bump back over your placement. And again, this is for better or worse. If you have unresolved things, it might be a little more intense for you, but the blessings that can come from retrograde for everybody also have a higher chance of being more amplified for you all. Okay, so we talked about how the solar eclipse is going to affect more the early degree placements, even though it will affect everyone, and how the Mercury retrograde is going to affect the late earlies and the middle. But the late degree, friends, you also have something in particular that's going on for you, and we'll talk about that. Okay, the Jupiter-Pluto conjunction, we already addressed that, but I want to show you the angles that it's making to your planets, and I want to show you where in the chart that it's more likely to bring the boom for you, okay? So Capricorn opposes your sign. So the late degree placements, let's bring the late degree chart. You see that is going to be happening where it's going to actually directly connect in. And the closer you are to 24 degrees, it will be exact. But everyone in the late degree arena, so the last 10 days of the sign or last 10 degrees, you're going to be more profoundly impacted by the opposition, okay? Oppositions tend to make us feel like we're being pulled in two different directions. And opposition can sound like it's bad because someone's opposing you or something's opposing you. But really what it is it's stretching you so far in two directions that your only options pretty much are to like collapse under it all and just give up, or to transcend the pull. It's like this, it goes up, and this is all sacred geometry too. So we're being pulled in these directions, and if you can transcend it, then you have all the balls in the air. I always call it, you're accessing your superhero self. So the pressures may be a little bit higher for those of you at the end of the Cancer spectrum for this, but that's just what's happening right now. And the rewards can also be pretty profound. So I'm hoping that you'll be able to address and overcome any challenges that come. And a lot of it really has to do with your inner world versus your outer world, your home, housing, houses, things like that, versus your place out in the world, your work, your career, your family versus your job and the things that you feel like you're here to do, which may or may not be completely involved with your family, like your stuff out in the world. And the me and we, like you versus other people and those relationships there. Those are the big things that are coming up for everybody. That may be especially intense for the late degree placements. Okay, so now let's talk about the solar eclipse. The solar eclipse, just start out with the early. We said it's going to be at 0 degrees of Cancer. Things that have been in process for the last 2 years are likely going to find their ending now. And their ending could just be the end of a chapter, or the ending can be like an end. It's done, it's completely done. But some very strong ending that opens up to some very strong beginnings are happening now. And if you look back over the last 2 years, you likely could see the parallels between the themes that have come up for this time, and you'll see something, coming to some kind of conclusion at this point. So those of you in the early degree, you will experience this energy in the 1st or 12th house, because it's on the line there, 0 degrees. Every day into the Cancer spectrum is shifting it further back into the 12th house. So by the time you get to the middle degree placements, it's very clearly in the 12th house, the eclipse. And then when we get to the late degree placements, it's also very clearly like way back here. All right, so let's talk about that for a second. And I've created more resources for you to go in deeper with this. The 1st house has to do with rebirth, new beginnings, your physical body, your physical health, your image, what you call yourself. So those of you towards the beginning of the sign may have nothing short of like you wake up as an architect, or you go to sleep as an architect and you wake up as like a psychic healer or the other way around, but like some really sharp change in definition of how you see yourself and how you put yourself out in the world, how you want to be known and how you're known. This can have a lot of recognition involved and a lot of notoriety. And this can also have like a brand new direction. Like it reminds me of when I left Florida and went to Sedona to live. At that time, I had been doing all of my astrology and writing and all of this kind of stuff, but people didn't really know me that way. They knew me as a person that had a real estate business. They knew me as a person who had recently stopped being a pharmaceutical rep. And in my mind, I was an astrologer. I was, a person who wrote books and blogs and helped people with energetic healing. And that's how I saw myself. And that's what I thought Spirit wanted from me, right? So that line right there, I went through similar things at that time. I went to Sedona. Nobody knew that I was a real estate, investor. People didn't know about my pharmaceutical background, and I went there and became known for the work that I do now. And I've been known for that now for, the last 16 years or whatever, pretty strongly. So this is the kind of thing, like this major life change. And any Cancer placement can have an element of what's going on, but those of you towards the beginning are having more of that direct hit. Okay, so look up, in order to get more info on this, for early degree placements, look up eclipses in Aries or 1st house. And this is on my site. Okay, you can also do other research, but I've done a video series on this. So if you go to AnnieHelpsYouTV.com, which is my YouTube page, or just search for Annie Botticelli YouTube, I have my whole eclipse series on there. So you look for the eclipse in Aries or 1st house, because that's the energy here. Then all of the rest, look for eclipses in Pisces or 12th house. And even you early degree placements, you're having it on the line. So the energies can be in one or both places. And this more has to do with getting your psyche straight, okay? So you have a chance to bring to light your psychological imprint, for better and worse, and to really change the matrix through which you were living and change the viewpoint through which you were seeing everything in life, because we create our reality through our perspective, we create our reality through our imprinting. So you can have major psychological breakthroughs at this time. Sometimes the breakthroughs are disguised as a crisis, but if you can keep doing the work, you can push through and get to this point. And this also can have to do with your fears. So those same things that were aspected in the 12th house, as I showed you before, like all of the placements have all of this 12th house aspect. Well, now add to that an eclipse, okay? So it's just like the more you can understand about the 12th house, the better. I love the energy of the 12th house to be matched with like hypnotherapy, past life regression, meditation, connecting with synchronicity and the ethereal realms, you might find that your relationship with synchronicity changes, where like you're talking about something and then you see a truck drive by with the same message, or you ask the universe, okay, should I stay or should I go? And then right when you're like feeling into that, a truck passes that says, we help you go, or whatever. It's like a moving company, you know? And hearing the subtle whispers and what the animal messages are, and just, you know, getting kind of deep into this unseen realm is really what the 12th house is all about. And the unseen realm covers a lot of ground. So overall, a really intense month for Cancers, but I'm hoping that all of the work that you've done and the things you've gone through the last 2 years will help you to make the most of this and to really have a very nice clean slate, because all of this energy for you all has been major karma blasting. So much karma has had an opportunity to blast for Cancer and Capricorn placements with this cycle. I have a strong Capricorn placements, so I've been receiving it on the other end, you know, where I've had like devastating loss, and then I've had like crazy triumphant accomplishments, and you know, that's the nature of the eclipses in the eclipse cycle. But everything that you do and everything that you go through kind of prepares you more for the next chapters, and this is the big final chapter. So if you'd like to have more information on the energies, definitely look in the notes below the video. I've got lots of links for Venus retrograde. I've got links for the coronavirus video that I explain the astrological profile. If you go to anniehelpsyou.com, I have a ton of blogs. If you go to cozybysweetstarlight.com, I've got written horoscopes for each sign a month early, plus astrology kiss blogs. All these links are also below if you click the little arrow below the video that says more. If you'd like to learn astrology, if you resonate with how I teach and you want to either use it as part of a professional offering, or just because you're stir crazy in quarantine, or because you've always wanted to do it, you'll love my course called Become a Professional Astrologer Mastery Course. Even if you don't want to do it professionally, it will teach you everything you need to know to do it for whatever your purposes are. So you can see that at beastropro.com, beastropro.com, or go to my school, Luminous Life Multiversity, to see all of my courses, including a lot of free courses and more being put up there. And including a free course called Claiming Victory Over Viruses. And that's intended not just for COVID, but also for people who have autoimmune disease or cancers that are related to viruses, this is a very growing population. People don't even realize the extent to which viruses are connected to these maladies. So LumeLife, LUME life.com is that site. And definitely check out my book, Planetology, How to Align with the Rhythms of the Universe. This is a long, detailed book with tons of easy to follow projects and practices to help you align with the planetary rhythms, to make the most out of the potentials and to flow with the universal rhythms instead of against them. So I hope you have a wonderful month, and I'll see you next month. Bye.